Welcome, everybody. Why don't we get started? My name is Hany Farid. I'm a professor of computer science here at Dartmouth. And I'm honored to have been asked by the Department of Undergraduate Journal of Science to moderate this discussion on STEM majors, minors, and careers. You can see we have a panel of students here. I'm going to introduce them in a minute. Let me just, since I have the podium, say a few words. So I've been here for 15 years, and in that 15 years, I've seen some really remarkable transformations, not just here on campus, but in our society and around the world. And arguably, 2 decades ago, we lived in a society dominated by manufacturing, and something has changed. And now we live in a society, in a world dominated by technology and science. And that's not just in Silicon Valley. That's in medicine, it's in biotech, it's in law enforcement, it's in Wall Street, it's everywhere. And it's having a profound impact on our society. And it's particularly having an impact on students like you, who are looking down the road 5, 10, 15, 20 years and wondering what that future will hold for you. Okay? And I think that this is both a time of incredible excitement, but also a lot of uncertainty. And I've been here a long time, and I've been talking to students for a long time, and one of the things that I've been hearing over the last few years is that I can't ignore STEM anymore. I tried all through high school, but I can't anymore. I got to start paying attention. And I think that there's some truth to that. I think whether you are interested in the humanities or the liberal arts or the social sciences, you can't ignore STEM anymore. So I don't think, however, that this means that you should simply follow a career because of this perceived external pressure. I am a true believer in the liberal arts education. I believe that liberal arts means humanities, social sciences, and arts, and science, and computer science, and engineering, and mathematics. And the fact is that the mathematics and the computer science and the engineering and the science of today is not those disciplines of your parents. It is a very different landscape, and part of the goal of this panel is to talk to you about that landscape and what it means to you, whether you're interested in a minor, a major, or something further, okay? I'll also say, talking to a lot of students, 5 of them here, that there's a sense that here at Dartmouth there's not enough advising and mentorship of STEM and STEM-related degrees. Perhaps that's because we are traditionally liberal arts and that has dominated, although that is changing. So the goal of the panel today is to dispel some common myths about STEM, begin to provide better mentoring on STEM, and to try to give you the resources so that you can have a more productive and enjoyable time here, regardless of what STEM or STEM-related discipline you follow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the panel, let them introduce themselves, rather, and then we'll get started with some discussion. So Kevin, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm Kevin Francfort. I'm an engineering and econ double major. And a couple of things I do around campus. I'm the president of Dartmouth Humanitarian Engineering meeting tonight, Tuesday at 8. Feel free to come. I'm also on the investment committee for Dartmouth Investment and Philanthropy Program, and I'm also a member of Alpha Chi Alpha.
Hi, I'm Kim Strauch. I'm a 15 computer science major. I'm also the president of the Women in Computer Science Club. We also have a meeting tonight at 7 p.m. if you want to come. I'm also a UGA, and I help to plan and bartend for Bar Hop, which is on Thursdays at night. So if you want to come say hi, you should do it.
Sorry, let me just interrupt. If you can just get a little closer to the mic so that that voice really goes out, and for the video.
Hi, I'm Stephen Chen. I am a bio major and a math minor. One of the things I'm involved on campus is the Dartmouth Undergraduate Journal of Science. I am also involved with Habitat for Humanity, and I'm a member of Sigma Alpha Epsilon.
Hi guys, I'm Lauren Salguiero. I'm obviously a 15. I am a biology major. I'm the student coordinator for the peer mentor program through WISP. We have a little booth set up back there, so if you're interested in learning more about WISP and the peer mentor program, go ahead and check it out. And then I'm also vice president of finance for Tri-Delta Sorority.
Hey, my name is Suyash. I'm 15. I'm a math major. I spent the first 3 years here on the lightweight crew team. I also work right now as a tour guide and as a tutor, and I'm also the house man for my fraternity, Chi Gamma Epsilon.
Okay, thank you. So here's what we're going to do. I have a bunch of questions that I'm going to ask the panel, or maybe 5, 6 of them, and sort of to give you a scope of what a STEM minor, major, and beyond is like here. And then we're just going to open up for a questions and answer, and then afterwards there's a bunch of the information around you that you can get. So let me just start with the first question then. I think it's probably fair to say that many of you think that STEM majors just come to Dartmouth and they're STEM. And so they sort of hit the ground running and off they go. And so let me just ask, maybe we'll start with Kimmy. Did you always know that you wanted to do STEM, like before you came to Dartmouth in your first year?
Hold on, let me just bring this a little closer so you can all hear me. So I thought I might want to do math or science at Dartmouth, but I didn't really know for sure. And if you asked me, did I know that I wanted to be a computer science major when I first came in, I'd say absolutely not. I had a really difficult time picking my classes freshman fall, and I was really surprised and kind of shocked that people seemed to have it all figured out. I had a bunch of friends who knew they were going to be pre-med. There were the people who knew they were going to double major in biology and math and minor in art history. I just didn't get it. So I had picked out 2 of my classes, both of which were humanities, so they were my first year seminar, and then German 1, which I took because I thought it would be a lot of fun. And then I didn't know what to do for my third, so I thought maybe I'll do Math 11, but then I decided not to do that. And I took CS1 pretty much on a whim, and I really loved it. Before it, I was pretty hesitant to take it because I had no computer science background. My closest thing to computer science was, I don't know, maybe playing Carmen Sandiego games on my computer. So it was really all very new to me and very exciting, and I really loved it. And so I took another computer science class, and another one, and another one. And finally, I think at the last possible moment, I declared my CS major. So if you ask me, did I know? Absolutely not. But I'm really glad that I took a risk and took CS1 my freshman fall and found something that I really enjoy.
So as the person currently teaching CS1, I can tell you should all take it. And let me just reiterate, I think Kimmy's last point, this thing of don't be shy, be adventurous. Take things that you didn't think you might want. It is amazing the number of people who come in their senior year and take CS1 and they're like, damn it, because it's over, they're seniors. And they regret that, and that's something you want to try to avoid. So I often hear from first-year students that they're concerned that STEM majors can't have a life, that if you're STEM, it is over. You're not going to be playing Pong on the weekends. Forget about it. So I'm wondering, Kevin, maybe you can talk to us about sort of, I don't know why. Please do not infer anything about that. Although I did see him out in the, no, sorry. So Kevin, why don't you tell us a little bit about sort of what life is like here as a STEM?
Sure. Yeah, so I think that, well, I'm not playing Pong every night or anything. Get that straight first. But I think that doing STEM, and particularly if you want to do a double major or maybe a more intensive STEM route, it just takes more planning, and it just takes a little bit more effort. So that's sort of big picture. Like, you have to get your D plan sort of in order as soon as possible. That doesn't mean yet for you 18s, but maybe by the end of your freshman year, try to start thinking about what classes you want to take, around when. Start laying that out in Excel or any other tool that you can find, and just sort of start planning that. And then in the short term, there are some other sort of tools I used. One is stay organized. Keep a calendar. Make sure you're on top of where you have to be when. Make sure you don't have overlapping commitments, that sort of thing. I would say another thing is make friends with upperclassmen as much as possible. That sounds really difficult, but I had my freshman year, my lodge buddy offered to grab dinner with me. And I said yes, because there's really no downside to it. You're going to meet some incredible people, and they'll be able to help you a lot. I met 2 of the most helpful people in shaping my STEM major my freshman year through DHE, which sort of leads me to the last short-term tool that you can use, these mentorship programs. So DUJS is offering one, DHE offered one this term, and take advantage of stuff like that, because ultimately I think older students have an idea of what sort of classes to take, when, how do you fit your schedule together. They have a lot of knowledge, and make sure you use that. So sort of going back to the big picture, I'd say you can have a life an awesome, vibrant life, if you just make sure that you're spending your time efficiently. So make sure that you're doing what you love. If you don't like what you're doing, then try to change courses. but try to be efficient with how you use your time.
Great, thanks. So I remember that Suyash also was in crew, and so maybe the perspective from an athlete would also be sort of interesting in how you juggle all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I spent 3 years on the crew team. I think that going back to what Kevin said, I think planning is really crucial. And so I think the two areas where people think that a STEM major takes over your life is that people think that there's a lot more courses to a STEM major and that each individual course is more work. In terms of number of courses, I think that's in part a misconception. It makes sense if you look at engineering, where including the prereqs, you're looking at 15 or 16 courses. But if you look at the math major, for example, it's 12 courses, but most people will come to Dartmouth if they think they're probably going to be a math major, having taken calculus in high school. So that brings it down to about 11. If you compare that to econ, history, or government, those are all 10 courses for the major, and those are some of our most popular majors here on campus. And so in terms of the number of courses, I do think that if you sort of plan it well, but not necessarily by your freshman year, I think midway through sophomore year, you should have a fair idea though. You can definitely still have time to explore other things and also just be a double major. In terms of time per course, I think the type of work is very different, where for another course you might be able to get away with not doing that week's reading. Like for a lot of STEM courses, you're gonna have problem sets, and those you need to do or you're gonna get a 0 on. And so I think again, it goes back to planning where it's not a ton of time, but you need to get the stuff done, and you need to ideally have some blank space to work with where you have just like 2 hours straight to go. And so you kind of wanna avoid cramming your day with a ton of needless stuff, which I think goes back to having a calendar.
Okay, thanks. And let me just add to that also, teaching CS1's been great for me because I see literally hundreds of students every term, and I will tell you, there are football players, there are basketball players, there are swimmers, runners, there are people who are in the orchestra, there are people who juggle, huge time commitments and manage to make it through CS and related things. So I think it's true. I also think I'm gonna just sort of back up that thing, is that being on top of your schedule and being organized is critical to a lot of this. This is sort of an interesting question that I thought about, because I do hear this from a lot of students, which is that there's this notion or this preconceived notion of what STEM is. And there's this preconceived idea that you are not a STEM, you are not a computer scientist or a mathematician or engineer, for whatever reason that is. And so I'm wondering if maybe Lauren can sort of chime in on your sort of, did you have sort of some preconceived idea of whether you belonged or didn't belong?
I mean, I definitely thought so. I thought coming into Dartmouth, like I wasn't cut out to do STEM, to like be like that super gung-ho like science person, really devoted, like living, breathing, eating science. I felt kind of out of place at science at first at Dartmouth for multiple reasons. I think first, like coming from a public school, I was really concerned that I wasn't adequately prepared to handle like the challenges that were going to come with a Dartmouth science course. I was worried that my study habits like weren't as like great as some of the other students who had come from like really, really technical, like, excelling schools. In addition to that, I was a student who definitely knew that I wanted to major in science and loved biology, but also wanted to get into a lot of other areas of study, like such as film or like women and gender studies or education. I was really interested in those things too, and didn't want pursuing a science degree to compromise me being able to study those things. And on top of all of those things, I also really wanted to have a social life at Dartmouth. And so I was really concerned that I wasn't, that cookie cutter STEM kind of major. And I was really concerned that I was going to have to compete with other students who would be willing to give up all of those things to succeed in science. I was sitting in classes with students who had read the textbook for the current class the term before, and quite literally, I mean, like before these students had even matriculated into Dartmouth, they had read the textbook for the class. I don't know how they got that information. I'm not really sure. To this day, I have no idea. But I'm gonna promise you, you will find people like that in your courses who are up every class after the lecture asking questions, people who attend every office hours, people who read the textbook backwards and forwards until they've memorized like every single word on those pages. But I think it's important to remember to just fight the urge to treat science like it's a competition against other students. I think that's one of the most damaging things you can do in pursuing science at Dartmouth, because that shouldn't be your motivation. You should want to win and you should want to be competitive, but first and foremost, you should love science, and that's why you should pursue it. I think that if you treat science like it's a race, like it's a competition against other students, you're going to get burned out really, really quickly. You're going to get tired and you're going to start to hate science. I think the best way to motivate yourself is to truly just love what you're doing and to really delve into the material and stop thinking that you're not good enough. Students learn in very, in different ways. Some students find office hours really effective. Some students hate office hours because they get really nervous talking to professors. But don't let the study habits of other students affect the way that you feel you're succeeding in a course, because that's really detrimental to the way that you think about yourself in a class. So yeah, I think that just stop focusing on the way other students are doing it and stop trying to treat science like it's a competition, and just really love what you're doing, and you'll have a much more positive, enriching experience once you graduate from Dartmouth.
Thanks. If you didn't see it, there's a really interesting article in the New York Times today that the folks at Google figured out that GPA is uncorrelated with work performance, and they have stopped asking potential employees what their GPA is. They don't care. It's completely unrelated to performance, they figured out. This is a great thing about big data, by the way. We get to dispel myths, right? And one of the myths is that 5 years from now, anybody's gonna care about your GPA, including you. Nobody cares. I'm not telling you to get a 1.4. Okay, fine. But the difference between a 3, a 3.3, a 3.4, a 3.5, nobody cares. And if you make your way through college simply obsessed with the 3.7 and up, you can do it. It's actually not that hard. But you're not going to push yourself, you're not going to learn, you're not going to expand your mind, you're going to get out of here, and then what? What's next? What's next after 5 years? After the bragging rights of your 4.0 are over, right? What's next? So the GPA, I realize that to get here, that has been a huge obsession. And I understand that, and that's not your fault, but it's over. That fight is over. You have won. You are here, right? And so now the time is to do something different, in my opinion. And I'm telling you, it's not just me. It's not just because I'm here in the academics and I can have that. Google doesn't even care. And I tell you, I do a lot of consulting for companies helping to recruit. I don't like people who have 4.0s. I don't trust them. If you didn't fall down, you didn't try hard enough, in my opinion. So fall down. It's actually okay. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about classrooms. And so one of the great things about STEM is that there are things that extend well beyond the classroom. And you will find in the sciences and in mathematics and computer science and engineering that we are all doing a lot of research, both at the postdoctoral level, at the graduate level, and the undergraduate level. And one of the great things about this discipline is you as an undergraduate can actually get involved one-on-one with your professors doing research. So I thought maybe Stephen could, because I know Stephen's been doing some research, so maybe you can tell us a little bit about your experiences.
Right, so I started research my sophomore year after approaching professors during my freshman year. So I got really lucky in that I was taking Bio 12 in freshman spring, and I established a good relationship with my prof by going to office hours. And I thought that was a great way to start a relationship with your professors by just going to office hours. I think that's a great way for people to find research mentors too. So I got really lucky because she was the first person I talked to, and I ended up getting a position in her lab. But I know a lot of other students who just email blitz professors, and then professors obviously want students to work in the labs, and are really appreciative of that gesture of going to approaching the professor first and then asking. So it's not hard at all to find a research position here. I'd say that the undergraduate research office has a lot of scholarships actually to help fund research opportunities here. So sophomore spring, I did a Hanover SSP here, which is full-time research, just living on campus and just doing research 9 to 5 basically, and not taking classes, which is really nice. And they gave me $4,000 to do that. So you get all the perks of being in Hanover without any stress basically. I know they also have the sophomore science scholarships for sophomores, and then presidential scholars for juniors. So it's part-time research. It's not 10 hours a week, and it's really convenient just to get paid to do research, because you don't have to do a job. It's basically a job, but you're also pursuing something that you want to do in a lab. And I'd say that it's the point of doing research is that you're really interested in learning about something else outside the classroom. You're kind of exploring, working alongside grad students, working alongside professors, and research interest that is outside of whatever you learn in class. So something that is more about the pursuit of knowledge and something that hasn't been discovered yet, and rather than just textbook learning. And I think that's really great about doing research here, and I think that's what I encourage most of you to figure out, try to do if you have any interest in doing that at all, and try to approach professors. And they're really nice and approachable, and I really encourage you to do that.
Okay, we're all not nice, but most of us are. So let me just add one more thing that I know it's a little early for most of you, but if you are thinking about grad school, even the possibility of grad school, you absolutely want to start doing some research. Much more so than your GPA, your major, where you went. Graduate schools are interested in, does this person, have they done research? Do they understand what's involved? And the key thing, and I think Stephen pointed to it, is that this is not textbook. We don't know if there's an answer. We go off looking for an answer, and we don't even know if it's there. And that's both sort of maddening, but also incredibly exciting. You are the first person to discover this thing. And it's incredible. It's an incredible time to sort of really use some of the knowledge and apply it in ways that nobody's ever applied it before. That's really exciting. Okay, so hopefully you've heard different experiences, different perspectives. And one of the things today to sort of bring this back to what I was talking about earlier is STEM is revolutionizing our world. But it's not about leaving here and going into the basement of Google and writing code, 18 hours a day. You can do that if you want, but that's not necessarily what it is. And one of the things with STEM today, more so than ever before, is that the diversity of things that you can do on the way out, from going to Wall Street, to pharmaceuticals, to law enforcement, to Silicon Valley, to environmental work, it doesn't matter, is really unprecedented. And so I thought what we would just do is maybe just go down the line. These are all 15s, they're all the way out, and just sort of tell us a little bit about sort of what's next for you, and hopefully you get a little bit of a flavor for sort of what is the diversity of things that are to come for you in a few years. So why don't we start?
Sure. I'll start off. I'm going to be working at Fidelity in Boston next year. It's a financial services firm. What I'll be doing is basically looking at public companies and analyzing them to determine a value. And then we could buy or sell their stock based on that. It's a little bit different than the engineering work I've been doing here. It's a little bit more related to econ, but the thinking process and the problem-solving skills are actually pretty transferable. So it's kind of cool to see where you can branch out from with STEM background.
Kimmy?
I'll be working at Apple next year, and I'm doing a 2-year rotational program, so I still don't really need to totally decide what I want to do yet, which is really exciting for me. I feel like I've kind of hit snooze and can wait a little bit more before I find what my true career is going to be. So I can try on a lot of different hats, be a software developer, do UX stuff, as well as product management. So I'm really excited for that. Also, California has really good weather, so I'm not sorry to leave behind
All right, don't rub it in.
the cold winters.
So I'm looking to go into MD PhD program. So I knew I wanted to go into med school pretty early on, but I didn't really hear of the MD PhD program until when I started doing research. When I was talking with grad students who love to their research and love doing their PhD, I was like, man, maybe this is something I want to pursue as well. And then I found out about this program where you can do both things, which is really awesome, I think.
I'll be teaching in Newark, New Jersey with Teach for America. I'll probably be teaching STEM. I haven't received my assignment yet, but I think they're low on STEM majors. So, and then hopefully after 2 years of doing that, I'll continue on to like an MD PhD program or an MD program. So.
Hey, I'll be working at Bridgewater, which is a macro-based hedge fund in Connecticut next year. I worked there this past summer, and it was pretty fun. And one thing that I really noticed was that people who came in with STEM majors, even though they weren't applying their astrophysics or their chemistry knowledge at all, seemed to do really well in the internship. And I think, as Kevin mentioned earlier, it had a lot to do with just the problem-solving skills that you end up learning as a STEM major at Dartmouth to really transfer into the workplace, which is really useful.
Great, thanks. Let me just say, I've been here long enough to see alumni, move through their first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, some case 10th jobs. That's not a bad thing, particularly when you're young. But one of the great things about having a STEM, engineering, math, is that you can do so many different things. You are not actually locked into going to just Apple or to finance or to teach. You have options after options after options, whereas if you really narrow your focus very much, that may limit what's going to happen. And one of the things you want about options is you don't know what you're going to like. You're still young. And also, the landscape's going to change. Right? You're making plans for your life 20, 30 years, 40 years down the line, and you don't know what that landscape's going to look like. And so flexibility in your workforce is actually very nice. Okay, so that's all the questions I have for the panel. So I thought what we'd do is open it up for questions that you may have, and you can direct it to somebody specific, you can direct it to me, you can just shout it out, and somebody can take the question. So please feel free to ask questions.
actually just use Excel, but I know that there's a website. Do you guys remember that?
Dartplan, I think.
Dartplan. It basically breaks down your D plan, and it can fill in courses. Dartplan.com, I guess. But I personally use Excel. I don't know, maybe it's a STEM background. I found it easier. But yeah, there are a couple of resources.
So if you haven't seen it, Dartplan is actually really good. I was sort of amazed. I don't know who wrote this, but it's sort of an impressive little software, and it is very good for planning your several years out and actually moving things around. Does anybody else have anything that they want to sort of share on that? All right. Any other questions? Yeah. Oh, wait. Can we just get the mic? Yeah, thanks, Scott.
Were you guys still able to study abroad even though you're STEM majors?
I'll take that. Yeah, definitely. I studied abroad. I did the German LSA my freshman summer. And I guess I went and did an internship in California, so it's not really studying abroad, but I did research in New Zealand this past winter. I really just tried to avoid the winters because I don't like cold, as I've mentioned before. But I did have time. I think going back to Kevin's point from earlier, you can do a STEM major and figure out how to have a life. If that includes studying abroad, you can figure out how to do it. It just requires a little extra early planning, I think.
Can I answer that too? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Can I answer?
Yeah, please.
Unfortunately, I was just going to say, unfortunately, with STEM majors, there are very few opportunities like to study abroad through STEM. Like I know for bio, they have the Cayman FSP, and that's great. But I think one of the best things that STEM majors can do, like to kind of diversify their curriculum, is to do a language LSA or LSA plus, just because that's a really great break for you. If it helps you when you're like planning your curriculum to have like one like language course. So doing that, or you have 3 off terms like in your time here at Dartmouth, and like use those wisely. You can always, like, if you don't study abroad technically on like one of those like on terms, you can always like travel throughout your time during your off term, which is like a good substitute for that too. So.
And I'll add that we in computer science do not have one, but we've been talking about it in part because students want one. So talk to your professors, give them a hard time, tell them to get their act together. We should have one. There's no reason you can't go to Italy and do computer science, right? I mean, why not? Any other questions? All the way in the back.
Kevin and Suyash, you guys mentioned that STEM really prepares you in terms of your problem-solving abilities when you go out in the real world. Can you give an example from your favorite class on a challenging problem that you've had to solve, and kind of how the STEM majors here at Dartmouth have prepared you for that problem-solving challenge that you'll have later in life?
Sure. I can go first. I mean, honestly, I think that pretty much every proof-based math course I've taken, where it's been like, oh, like, prove that 1 + 1 = 2, and you're kind of staring at it like, oh my God, how do I do this? I think any class I've taken where I've looked at the problem and it's taken me more than like a minute to figure out how I'm even going to approach the problem is a good example of that. So I'd say like algebra was a good one. I know it sounds like algebra, but it was really hard. And so I think any theoretical math course would do it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would sort of the engineering side is you do a lot of stuff with your hands, but then you do a lot of teamwork. And for the engineers out there, you probably know that Engines 21. It's a project-based class, and you're building a technology. But I think the biggest value out of that class is how you work with the other people in your group, and sort of the group dynamics, understanding how to get people to do things, how to best work together. You'll find that no matter what you go into, I bet everyone here is going to have to work with other people. And a project like that one from Engines 21 will really teach you some valuable skills with that.
Anything else? All right, so let me just say a few closing words. I hope you found some of the information useful. There's a bunch of pamphlets and information sort of scattered about, and I think people from the various clubs will be here that you can chat with. Let me say that despite the fact that I'm the one here at the podium, I had absolutely nothing to do with this panel. This is completely conceived of, designed, and run by students, 5 panelists, and most importantly, Scott Gladstone, who's standing right back there. So please join me in thanking Scott and the panel for all their hard work. Thank you. And I think everybody's going to be lingering, so if you want to come chat with us, please do. Thanks.